Good day, guys! And I hope pala na you enjoyed the activity last Wednesday. And today, we are now on our next lesson, which is all about cognitive psychology. Consciousness. So, what is consciousness? It is the sensory awareness of the environment. It is the continuing sense of self in the world, and it is the waking state. Consciousness is our awareness on the current events in our environment. This includes our sensations, perceptions, memories, feelings, and even fantasies inside of our current awareness. And when we say current awareness, we are talking about what we are thinking at the moment. For example, while watching this video, you consciously know that I am presenting my video and discussing these topics. And you might also wonder if friendly ba si ate or not. Or you might currently evaluating my presentation at the moment if magaling ba yung pagka-discuss ko or not. So anything na pumapasok sa isipan mo ngayon, that is an example of consciousness. But now, let us try to test your awareness and let's watch this video.
Clearly, somebody in this room murdered Lord Smythe, who, at precisely 3:34 this afternoon, was brutally bludgeoned to death with a blunt instrument. I want each of you to tell me your whereabouts at precisely the time that this dastardly deed took place.
I was polishing the brass in the master bedroom.
I was buttering his lordship's scones below stairs, sir.
Why, I was planting my petunias in the potting shed.
Constable, arrest Lady Smythe.
But how did you know?
Madam, as any horticulturist will tell you, one does not plant petunias until May is out. Take her away.
Sorry, madam.
It's just a matter of observation. The real question is, how observant were you?
Action.
Clearly, somebody in this room murdered Lord Smythe, who, at precisely 3:34 this afternoon, was brutally bludgeoned to death with a blunt instrument. I want each of you to tell me your whereabouts at precisely the time that this dastardly deed took place.
I was polishing the brass in the master bedroom.
I was buttering his lordship's scones below stairs, sir.
Why, I was planting my petunias in the potting shed.
Constable, arrest Lady Smythe.
Ayan, so are you able to notice the 21 changes that happened in the video? So to explain that phenomena, let me discuss the selective attention. So it is selective attention. It is all about focusing one's consciousness on a particular stimulus, and it makes our senses keener. For example, the changes given in Who Done It video. Diba? Yung kanina. So from that video, actually, that is a great example or illustration of how our mind selects or focuses on a particular stimulus. Diba sa sobrang focus natin kung sino yung pumatay kay Lord Smythe or Smythe, hindi natin na-notice yung mga changes na nangyayari sa environment. For another example, no? Kapag masyadong maingay sa labas, let's say, yung face-to-face pa yung class, di ba, there are times na very maingay yung noise sa labas, but we could still understand what our teacher is saying. Kasi our mind focuses or selects on the stimulus that we consider important. But the question is, how is attention captured? So it happens when there is a sudden change. So kapag nag-iba yung environment natin, for example, kapag nag-brown out sa gabi, huwag mong sabihin na di mo mananotice. Ang weird naman siguro, di ba, kapag yung katabi mo, sabi niya, hala, nag-brown out, tapos sabi mo, ha, di ko namalayan. Parang di ba nakakatakot naman yung gano'n na situation. Baka nawala na talaga yung vision mo. Hindi lang pala yung electricity ang nawala, sumama na yung vision mo. So, the next is novel stimuli. Ito yung kapag nakaka-encounter tayo ng bago or kakaiba. Like this. Sang creature mas nakuha attention nyo? Parang nakapa-second look kayo. Di ba dito sa strange na creature na to? So that is an example of a novel stimuli. Anything that is new or unique for us will capture our attention. Another example is kapag nakikipag-usap ka sa friend mo and then parang may narinig ka na kakaibang tunog. Di ba mapapatigil ka tapos sasabihin mo kung narinig niya ba din yung kakaibang sounds na yun. So yun yung novel stimuli. Next is intense stimuli. Anything na extreme. For example, while having serious discussion, biglang may malakas na alarm. Yung unang reaction natin, kahit gaano pa ka-serious yung conversation na yun, madidisturb at madidisturb ka. Makukuha yung attention mo ng alarm na yun. Kaya nga sa mga fire drills, we use intense stimuli para i-make sure na makukuha ang attention ng lahat ng tao sa isang building. Another example is kapag nagda-drive tayo, no? Tapos may katagpo tayong sasakyan na naka-high yung headlights niya. Tapos napaka-disturbing kasi yung focus natin andun na sa lights ng car na yun at wala na sa road, no? So, intense stimuli, it is the extreme stimulus na na-introduce sa atin. Tapos, nakuha yung attention natin. Next is, meron pa pala, another stimuli that captures our attention is the repetitive stimuli. Yung pabalik-balik na mga bagay. Di ba kapag may taong pabalik-balik ng daan sa harapan natin, kahit gaano pa kadami ng taong dumadaan, napapansin natin na may isang pabalik-balik na dumadaan kasi nakukuha niya yung atensyon natin. And nakukuha ng atensyon or nakukuha ang atensyon natin sa mga bagay na paulit-ulit na nangyayari. So now, let us move on with direct inner awareness. It is the awareness to our own thoughts, images, emotions, and memories. So every time that we are able to recognize what we feel, think, and see, that belongs to our direct inner awareness. Or to simply put, it is all about being aware of things inside yourself. Next, preconscious versus unconscious. So this is according to Freud. Preconscious is described as materials that are not in awareness but can be brought into awareness by focusing one's attention. This is when you are not thinking of it currently but kayang ma-retrieve ng brain mo if gusto mong i-recall yung thought or memory na yun. Example, sa ngayon, hindi mo naman iniisip kung ano yung address mo, di ba? Pero kapag tinanong kita, kaya mo masagot kasi kaya ni brain na i-retrieve yung information na yun. In therapy naman, very useful si preconscious, especially kapag tinatanong tayo ng therapist natin about our childhood. Because again, preconscious allows us to remember the things na hindi available sa conscious memory natin, but we are still able to brought it into awareness if we want to. Next, unconscious. It is described as ideas and feelings that are unavailable to awareness. For example, painful memories. Ipagpalagay natin na may painful memories ka sa father mo, pero nakastore siya doon sa unconscious mo. Kaya di mo malaman-laman kung bakit malayo at mabigat yung loob mo sa papa mo. Kaya pala, kasi sa unconscious mo, mayroon kang painful memories sa papa mo. Di mo malaman yung reason kasi di mo naman maalala, no? Hindi mo maalala yung memory na yun or yung painful memory na yun kasi nakastore siya sa unconscious mo. Kaya yung lumalabas ay yung emosyon mo. Kasi kahit di natin maalala yung isang pangyayari, as long as andun siya sa unconscious mo, lalabas at lalabas siya through your emotions. Kaya nga sa atin, we usually say, your feelings are valid. Kasi di naglalay yung feelings. At mahirap itago yung emotion ng isang tao. Kaya siguro nating itago sa ibang tao, pero di natin maloloko sarili natin na wala tayong nararamdaman. Next, repression. It is the automatic ejection of memories, impulses, or images from awareness to avoid the feelings of anxiety, guilt, or shame. So repression is often confused with suppression, where repression involves unconsciously blocking unwanted thoughts or impulses, while suppression, it is the deliberate or conscious ejection of unwanted mental events, unacceptable ideas, or distraction from awareness. In other words, suppression is entirely voluntary. Specifically, suppression is uh, deliberately trying to forget or not think about painful or unwanted thoughts. Kagaya niyan, di ba? Kagaya sa example na yan or sa image na yan. He is trying to forget that he is dying. So to elaborate more, no, in repression, si brain mismo ang naglalagay ng unwanted thoughts or events na sa unconscious mo without informing you. Pero lumalabas siya sa ibang forms such as phobias, anxiety, or guilt. While si suppression, ikaw mismo yung nakikiusap sa brain mo na itago yung idea or memory na yun. For example, yung feelings na nabagsak ka sa exam, pero yung day na yun is birthday ng mama mo. Kaya kinausap mo si brain na please make me forget about it kasi kailangan ko mag-enjoy sa birthday ng mama ko. So si brain, tinago niya yung thought na yun and disable you to enjoy your mother's birthday. So nangyari na ba sa inyo yun? No, kahit sa ibang situations na you consciously block that idea or thought para lang hindi ka ma-bother. So, yun yung suppression. Pero kapag repression, di ba, sabi ko kanina, si brain mismo ang naglagay ng unwanted thoughts or events unconscious mo without informing you. Kasi para kay brain, very nakaka-bother na siya or very disturbing. For example, hindi mo malaman kung bakit may phobia ka in lizards. Kasi nga pala, nung childhood mo, tinatakot ka ni mama at papa mo about lizards. Tapos, dahil sa very bothering na event na yun, si brain mismo, pinotektahan ka niya, so tinago niya yun sa unconscious mo, pero lumalabas siya through other forms. So, yung form na yun is yung phobia. Kaya, nag-create yung phobia na yun dahil sa unconscious memories mo. That you repress or your brain represses. Next, let's discuss the non-conscious. So non-conscious, this cannot be experienced through sensory awareness or direct awareness. For example, such as growing our hair, no? In which we cannot become conscious. No? We are not conscious about it. We may recognize na our hair is growing, but we cannot directly experience the biological process of its growing. Right? Hindi naman natin nafe-feel na, ayan, parang tumutubo na yung hair ko. But later on, we recognize it, but not directly. Memory. So, memory is the remembrance of things. According to Matlin 2005, memory is the process of maintaining information over time. And Sternberg 1999 he stated that memory is the means by which we draw on our past experiences in order to use this information in the present. I think kabalo man tatanan unsa ang memory, no? It is the information that we have learned in the past that we keep so we could use them in the future. So in memory, our brain is following a particular steps in which first we encode the information, then store it. So later on, no, our mind will be able to receive the encoded information. Next, kinds of memory. Explicit memory. Under kinds of memory, we have explicit and implicit. So explicit memory is also called declarative memory. It is a memory that clearly and distinctly expresses specific information, while implicit memory is also called as non-declarative memory, or it is a memory of how we perform a task. So to clearly differentiate the two, no, when we are taking an exam, for example, ano ang ginagamit natin na memory if we are trying to recall something from the lesson? Is it explicit or implicit? So, if you answered explicit, you are right. But how about when we are writing our answers? Is it explicit or implicit? If your answer is implicit, then you are correct. Sa akin, no, meron akong cueing words na ginagamit para di ko malimutan yung difference ng dalawa. So, from the word explicit, it is to explain. And when we say implicit, we need to imply. So, I hope makatulong din sa inyo. Next, let us discuss the concepts under explicit memory. So, in explicit memory, we have episodic memory and semantic memory. If we say episodic memory, the cueing words is I remember. So, it is also called as autobiographical memory. These are the memories of events that happen to a person or takes place in the person's presence. And when we say semantic memory, the cueing words or the cue word is I know. So semantic memory is general knowledge. For example, when I ask you about what happened in your class last week, your answer will be coming from episodic memory because you remembered what happened last week. But when I ask you what you have learned from the lesson last week, your answer will be coming from, yes, your semantic memory because you know what was the lesson all about. Next, let's discuss the concept under implicit memory, which is priming. So, priming is the phenomenon wherein automatic association of memory results from a great deal of repetition or practice. For example, when we saw a toothbrush, we know that it is for brushing our teeth. Or when we saw a school bus, we associate it in traveling to school. Or when we saw a bicycle, we associate it in riding a bicycle. So another example no, in this image, take a look with this picture. Asaan dyan yung soup at soap? So, di ba yung na-associate natin yung soap dun sa towel, shower, and shampoo. Kasi dun yung group niya. Yung soup naman, dun naman sa mga foods like bread, juice, and milk. So, that is priming. We associate things. Now, let's discuss the 3 stages of memory. So, the sensory input or the stimulus that is introduced, no, it will pass on our sensory memory. But pag hindi pinansin or binaliwala, that sensory information will be lost. No? But if we attended to that sensation, it will be stored on our short-term memory. Pero kapag hindi maintain yung information, no, through rehearsing, then again, later on, mawawala yung na-maintain or kung na-maintain, mawawala yung information na yon. Again. So, may sensory input. Then, papasok siya sa sensory memory natin. So, kapag hindi natin pinansin or binaliwala natin, mawawala siya. Magiging unattended information or magiging lost siya. No? So, kapag naman binigyan natin ng pansin or we give attention to it, mas store siya sa short-term memory natin. Pero, kapag hindi ni-rehearse, hindi na-maintain yung rehearsal na yun, unrehearsed information is lost. Pero kapag na-maintain, ni-rehearse, mas store siya dun sa long-term memory. Tapos, meron namang iba sa long-term memory na nawawala, meron ding naiiwan. So, we need to retrieve it. We need to retrieve that long-term memory, then maintain and rehearse it para ma-store na naman sa ating long-term memory. For example, when we are taking a test, sensory input natin is when we are studying. Sensory input natin is when we are reading. So, yung gamit natin na sensory is ang ating eyesight. Di ba may times na nagre-read tayo pero parang wala dun yung utak natin. So, we wonder, nagbabasa pala ako, ano pala yung binabasa ko? So, yung ganun na situation, na dito yun nalalagay sa unattended information is lost. Kasi kahit may na-input na sensory, hindi natin pinansin or hindi natin binigyan ng focus, malolos siya. Pero dun sa binigyan natin ng attention, we read it, we analyze it, masastore siya sa short-term memory natin. At kapag na-store na siya sa short-term memory natin, kapag ni-rehearse natin siya ng ni-rehearse, so kapag na-understand natin yung concept, tapos iniulit natin siya na bigkasin, or inuulit natin siyang basahin, or kaya gumagawa tayo ng mga activities like quizzes, tapos we try to answer it. So, ang nangyayari, masastore siya sa long-term memory natin. Pero kapag in-understand lang natin, tapos pagka ulit natin ito, hindi natin ni-rehearse ng ni-rehearse, ang mangyayari, mawawala yung short term na yon. Tapos, pero, yung kapag ni-rehearse mo, masastore siya sa long term. Pero, yung long term na yon, hindi lahat ng nasa long term magsustay. Diba? Katulad ko, I'm a fourth year student. Itong lesson na to, anuhan ko na, parang na-experience ko na or natutunan ko na. Pero, may ibang naiwan. Like, sa conscious or unconscious, naiwan siya. Alam ko yung definition, alam ko yung concept. Pero yung iba, kailangan kong i-reread or kailangan kong i-research ng paulit. Kasi, nakalimutan ko. Kasi hindi ko ni-rehearse. Hindi ko siya na-retrieve ng paulit. Kaya hindi ko siya na-maintain ng pag-rehearse. Kaya, may iba na nawala at may iba naman na naiwan. So, gets? Next, we have learning. Learning can also be defined as process by which behavior is changed, shaped, or controlled because of experience or practice. So, to gain knowledge of or skill in something through study, teaching, instruction, or experience, like ngayon, no, you have learned something from a video presentation, or learning can also be defined as process by which behavior is changed, shaped, or controlled because of experience or practice. Like nung tinry mong i-check kung mainit ba yung mantika through touching it. And nung nalaman mong masakit siya, so na-learn mo na di mo na siya uulitin. So again, learning, it can be gained through knowledge or skill in something through study, teaching, instruction, or experience. So, pag nag-gain tayo ng knowledge, tawag doon learning. At kapag may na-experience naman tayo, tapos may na-learn tayo, tawag pa rin doon is learning. Next, we have operant conditioning. So, the theory originates from the works of Ivan Pavlov's classical conditioning. So, operant conditioning is a controlled response with a reward or punishment system according to the behavior. In this picture, this is how Ivan Pavlov discovered the concept of operant conditioning. Kasi, gumawa siya ng box, no, na nasa loob, mayroong 2 buttons in which yung isa is naglalabas ng pagkain, which stands as our reinforcement. And then, yung other button nagbibigay ng electric shock, which stands as the punishment. So, naglalagay ng mice si Ivan Pavlov doon sa box na yon. And then, he discovered na mas pinupush ng mice na yung button na nagbibigay ng food, unlike sa other button na nagbibigay ng electric shock. So, therefore, he concluded na as we receive punishment in doing something, the more we will decrease that particular behavior. And the more we receive rewards of reinforcement in something that we do, the more we repeat that particular behavior. And there are 2 kinds of reinforcement. And again, when we say reinforcement, it is the pleasant stimuli that is used to increase the frequency of our behavior or yung pagbibigay ng rewards. So the 2 kinds of reinforcement are positive reinforcer and negative reinforcer. And when we say positive reinforcer, it is the giving of positive stimulus to receive continuous or same action. For example, binibigyan tayo ni mama ng pera kapag naghuhugas tayo ng plato. So, dahil nakaka-receive tayo ng rewards, we tend to repeat that particular behavior. We also observe this din when we train our dogs. So, every time na nagbibigay tayo ng food, kapag sumusunod siya sa command na sit. And the next time na sasabihan mo siya ng sit, alam niya mag-sit siya para maka-receive siya ng food. Kaya sumusunod yung dog sa trainer niya. And yan din yung dahilan kung bakit may palaging binibigay yung trainer every time na nagtitrain siya ng dogs. And when we say negative reinforcer, it is the removal of an aversive or unpleasant stimulus following a response. For example, na-observe natin na di nagtatalak si mama natin kapag nakikita niya tayong may ginagawa sa bahay. So with that, we learn to do our house chores without being said to. Now, let us move on with the two kinds of punishment. So again, punishment is something that we give to decrease the behavior. So we have the positive punishers and negative punishers. When we say positive punishers, sometimes it is referred to as punishment by application. It involves the presentation of an unfavorable event or outcome in order to weaken the response it follows. For example, pinapalo tayo noon kapag di sumusunod kina mama o papa. So the next time na inuutusan tayo, sumusunod na tayo sa mga magulang natin, di ba? And when we say negative punishers, this is the removal of a desirable or pleasant stimulus following a behavior that also decreases its occurrence. For example, nung bumagsak tayo sa exam, kinuha sa atin yung cellphone natin kasi di nagustuhan ng parents natin yung scores natin. So the next time, iniiwasan na natin bumagsak para di kunin yung cellphone natin. So kapag negative guys, ito lang yung palagi nyong i-remember. Kapag negative, may kinukuha. So sa reinforcement, ang kinukuha is ang unpleasant. Sa negative naman, ang kinukuha is yung desirable. At kapag positive naman, sa reinforcement, binibigyan ng rewards. Sa punishment naman, binibigyan ng punishment. So, I guess that's it for today, and I hope you understand our lesson about cognitive psychology. So thank you guys, and see you on Friday. Bye!